Have you ever felt like you were constantly fighting an uphill battle? You're dedicated, you work hard, and you have good intentions, but you look around and see others achieving a sense of calm, consistent success, a life that simply seems to flow, while your own feels riddled with frustration and unexpected setbacks. It creates a profound, almost spiritual exhaustion. We often fixate on our external actions, the jobs we take, the words we say, the people we choose to trust. We meticulously plan our next move, believing that if we just control the outer variables, we will finally find stability. But what if all that frantic, outward effort is missing the one, single, most critical point of leverage in your entire existence? What if the chaos or the calm you experience isn't an external storm, but a mere reflection of an unseen, unguarded chamber deep inside you? Before you can change your life, you have to understand the silent, governing principle that is currently running your life, often without your explicit permission. The foundational illumination. This is the very essence of ancient wisdom, perfectly encapsulated in a single, powerful mandate from Proverbs 4 verse 23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Stop for a moment and consider the weight of those first three words, above all else. This isn't a secondary suggestion, it is the primary directive, the foundational principle upon which all other discipline and success are built. The Hebrew word translated here as heart is lev or leb, and it refers to far more than just the seat of emotion. In the biblical context, the heart is the core of your being, your intellect, your will, your deepest intentions, and your decision-making faculty. It is the hidden spring from which all your outward reality, your behavior, your relationships, your wealth, and your health must inevitably emerge. This verse reveals a governing law of spiritual physics. Your outer life is not the result of chance, but the downstream consequence of your inner ecology. The deep dive, psychology and philosophy. This is a brilliant statement on what we would now call moral causality. The scripture doesn't just suggest a connection, it asserts a cause and effect mechanism. Because your actions flow from your heart, the state of your heart is the predictor of your destiny. The unguarded heart is a dangerous one, allowing toxic inputs like resentment, jealousy, and fear to take root. These inner states then become the invisible lens through which you perceive reality and the hidden code that programs your actions. If the spring is polluted with fear, the stream of your actions will be polluted with procrastination and avoidance. If the spring is focused on a relentless, cynical negativity, the stream of your outward life will be a constant experience of conflict and lack. This isn't a passive statement, it's an active principle of ethical regression. The deep philosophical insight here is the teleology of existence, the idea that the ultimate end or purpose of your life is determined by its beginning, the state of your core. If you operate from a place of unexamined bitterness, the telos, the end of that emotional stream, will be alienation, no matter how kind your surface actions might seem. Guarding your heart is therefore the ultimate act of authentic discipline. It is not about suppressing emotion, but about curating the inner garden. It means actively vetting the thoughts you entertain, the energies you allow to linger, and the narratives you tell yourself. The heart is the processing center, and if you let the world's noise, chaos, and cynicism become the master program, you are consciously choosing a difficult, painful future. The universe simply reflects the quality of the input you provide, and Proverbs tells us that input begins within. The interconnected list, assertive exposition, and real-world patterns. Proverbs 4 verse 23 is not a poetic sentiment. It is a diagnostic tool for understanding 5 specific, observable patterns in your life. Once you understand them, the law of sowing and reaping, Galatians 6 verse 7, as we focused on in our previous video, becomes an inevitable, logical consequence of your unguarded heart. 1. The pattern of emotional debt and bankruptcy, the cost of unforgiveness. The unguarded heart is often a place where unforgiveness is given refuge. It feels like a protective measure, a way of keeping yourself safe by holding others accountable for past hurts. However, What you are really doing is storing toxic debt in your core. The scripture says everything flows from the heart. Therefore, every decision, every interaction, and every opportunity is filtered through the residue of that stored bitterness. You start projecting the characteristics of the one who hurt you onto new, innocent people. The consequence, the karmic boomerang, is the inability to trust or receive genuine goodness. You become a magnet for betrayal because your energetic field, governed by your wounded heart, unconsciously pushes away the very peace and security you crave. The debt you are holding onto is not harming the offender. It is spiritually bankrupting you. The fruit you reap is isolation and a constant sense of being victimized, not because the world is inherently malicious, but because your inner state will only allow you to perceive and attract evidence that confirms your internal narrative of pain. Guarding your heart means actively releasing the anchor of past pain, not for their sake, but for the sake of your future flow. 2. The pattern of disrupted flow, the stagnation of envy. Envy is a profound enemy of the guarded heart because it forces you to look outward to determine your own value and sufficiency. When you constantly compare your inner reality to the polished, public facade of others, your heart becomes a reservoir of lack and resentment. This inner state is directly antithetical to the principles of abundance and generosity that are necessary for a prosperous life. The moment you envy someone else's blessing, you are simultaneously telling the universe and yourself that what you currently possess is insufficient and that you are not worthy of your own path. The consequence is a life of spiritual and material stagnation. The flow stops because your heart is constantly preoccupied with what it doesn't have, instead of channeling gratitude for what it does have. Your creative energy, the very thing that flows from your heart to generate outward success, is redirected into cynical critique and comparison. You reap scarcity because your inner state is convinced of it. Authentic discipline here is the rigorous practice of celebrating others' success as proof of possibility, rather than fuel for your own internal sense of deficiency. 3. The pattern of misguided action, the distortion of fear. Fear is the single greatest polluter of the heart because it masquerades as prudence. An unguarded heart allows generalized, future-based anxiety to become the chief counsel in all decision-making. This isn't healthy caution. It's a crippling, imaginative dread. When fear dictates your choices, you consistently choose safety over opportunity, avoidance over confrontation, and the status quo over necessary change. The consequence is a life of profound regret and underachievement. The law of reaping is simple. If you sow seeds of avoidance and hesitation, you will reap a harvest of what-ifs and missed chances. Your actions, flowing from a place of chronic fear, become small, tentative, and ultimately self-sabotaging. The actions may look logical on the surface, but they are devoid of the power and conviction that come from a courageous, fully engaged core. Guarding your heart means distinguishing between healthy caution and debilitating anxiety, and actively choosing faith in yourself and the divine structure over the corrosive lie of imagined failure. The pattern of ethical regression, the erosion of integrity. When the heart is unguarded, it subtly begins to rationalize minor compromises and ethical shortcuts. These are the small, silent betrayals of your own values, the white lie, the shaded truth, the corner cut when no one is watching. These actions flow from a heart that has allowed convenience and short-term gain to usurp the absolute authority of integrity. The heart becomes fragmented, living in two worlds, the public face of goodness and the private, messy reality of compromise. The consequence is an insidious loss of internal coherence and external credibility. The law of reaping is absolute here. If you sow fragmentation, you reap distrust and a loss of personal power. Even if the world never finds out about your internal compromises, you know. And that secret knowledge acts as a spiritual and psychological brake on your confidence, your assertiveness, and your ability to lead with authenticity. Your actions flow out as whispers of inauthenticity. Authentic discipline demands you treat your inner integrity as the most precious, non-negotiable asset you possess. Understanding that a strong, unified soul can only be built on the bedrock of unflinching truth. 5. The pattern of superficial connection, the barrier of performance. An unguarded heart, desperate for validation, often defaults to a posture of performance and people-pleasing. It attempts to gain love and security by acting the way it believes others want it to act, rather than simply being its authentic self. The heart in this state is not flowing, it is filtering and faking. The actions that flow from it are not genuine expressions of the soul, but carefully curated attempts to maintain external approval. The consequence is a life surrounded by people, yet burdened by profound, crippling loneliness. The relationships you reap are conditional and superficial because they are built on a version of you that doesn't actually exist. The law of reaping is clear. You can only receive back the quality of energy you genuinely send out. If you send out a performance, you receive back an audience, not a true connection. You remain isolated within your own carefully constructed cage. Guarding your heart means having the courage to present your true, imperfect self to the world, knowing that genuine connection is only possible when you stop trying to earn belonging and start simply being yourself. Conclusion and call to discipline. The wisdom of Proverbs 4 verse 23 is an invitation to the ultimate act of self-mastery, authentic discipline. It strips away the illusion that your struggles are due to external forces and places the single point of control squarely back into your hands. You cannot control what the world throws at you, the betrayal, the criticism, the financial challenge. But you have absolute, divinely granted authority over the one thing that matters most, the state of your core. If you wish to reap peace, you must sow inner quiet. If you wish to reap abundance, you must sow genuine gratitude. If you wish to reap authentic, deep connection, you must sow uncompromised integrity. Guard your heart by becoming the rigorous gatekeeper of your inner life. This means making a conscious, daily choice to evict fear, release resentment, and hold your inner space sacred. The unified soul is not built through striving, it is built through curation. Start today, right now, by actively examining the very next thought that enters your mind. Is it worthy of the future you claim to want? The quality of your entire future is determined by the quality of the one place you alone can govern. Guard that spring. Are you ready to stop fighting the symptoms and finally treat the cause? Let us know in the comments. What is the single most toxic thought you need to evict from your inner guardhouse this week?